Welcome to the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers. My name is Jackson Mumey, and each week we'll be bringing you updated information about the bar exam and what you need to do in order to make the next bar exam your last bar exam. Ready to get started? Let's jump to it. Hey everybody, welcome. Today is Wednesday, January 24th. We're glad to have you with us and excited to have you here as we answer some questions and bring everybody up to date on stuff that's going on in the bar exam. With me, as always, is Judge Dawson. Tracy's here, and Briana is just coming online. Glad to have everybody here live, and if you're watching on replay, glad to have you with us as well. Today, we have got some important announcements that we want to share with you. We've also got some great questions that came in the last couple of weeks, so we want to get to those as well. Now, at the end of our time today, Tracy's going to talk about manifesting success on a 5K. Is that correct?
Yep, manifesting the 5K.
Okay, so there you go. So we're going to manifest a little bit there today. I know some of you are good manifestors, and to see that. Our big announcement today is that we have opened enrollment for our next live Bar Prep Bootcamp. So I want to give you the dates, tell you a little bit about it, and then I want to play a short video for you. The boot camp will be here in Denver, Colorado on April 26th and 27th of 2024. And we will be doing a 2-day boot camp. But what's really exciting is that we get Briana and Amanda and Tracy and June and me. Bobga will be holding down the fort while the rest of us are in Denver. And this is the first time that we've had all of these coaches in one spot, which is very exciting. And it has a couple of implications. One is we can bring more people into boot camp because we have more coaches to work with you and still keep the group sizes really small. Secondly, is that by having Briana here in person, we're going to be able to do some of her magic time management work, as well as her coaching in writing. Amanda will be here to work on performance tests and the MBE. Tracy will be working on a variety of things with me and doing some presentations. June will be doing her mindset coaching, which is unbelievable. If you haven't been through that, it is just staggeringly good. And I'll be teaching photo reading and mind mapping. And if you're already a photo reader, we're going to give you a credit for the photo reading course you've purchased. If you're not a photo reader, we're going to include photo reading in your Bar Prep Bootcamp tuition. So it's a real bargain all the way around. Now, the cost for this 2-day session is $2,500, but there is an early bird discount of $250. And to receive that discount, all you have to do is go through a short application. We want to make sure that you're serious about bootcamp in order to reserve a seat. With this application, you'll pay a fully refundable $100 deposit. If you choose not to come to boot camp, we'll refund your deposit. And if you do come, we'll apply it to your tuition and we'll lock in your tuition at the $2,250. Now, as I said earlier, you can use the buy now, pay later programs from Klarna and Affirm and Afterpay to pay for your boot camp as well. So there's a lot of ways to stretch the payments out. We know that boot camp makes a difference. For those couple of years during COVID, when we couldn't do it, it was really a shame. It was very difficult. But the list of people who have been through boot camp and past continues to grow, and it's quite a roster. We encourage you to attend this boot camp if you're taking the bar exam in July of 2024 or anytime in 2025. It's not too early to sit in boot camp if you're coming in the 2025 exams. I'm very excited about having the coaching staff. It's pretty good to get everybody there and to have you get access to the whole team is really an extraordinary opportunity. And again, in small group settings. Tracy, what have we done? You've done maybe 3 of these boot camps now? Are we up to 3?
I've done 2 in person and the one that we did that was the virtual one, but 2 in person. Right.
Yeah. What's your impression of boot camp? What difference does it make for students?
I think you're going to hear this in a video that we're going to play in a moment, but I think the difference is being in person with each other and with the coaches, being able to get your questions answered in real time right there, listening to other people's questions and other people's struggles and learning from what we can tell you there. This is a lonely process. It can be a very isolating process, and boot camp is a way for you to create community with other people taking the bar exam, with your coaches. We have a lot of fun as well as we get a lot of work done. There's just no substitute for being in person and having the opportunity to be in person and to have actual face to face coaching with every single one of the people who's going to be there. There's no other way we do that and get that.
Yeah. And let me just point out the value of this. Included in the boot camp will be work on essay writing. That would be a $400 workshop. Work on the MPT. That's a $400 workshop. Work on the multi-state bar exam is $400 workshop. Photo reading, which is a $400 course. Mindset coaching, which is $400. Time management, which is $200. I'm not good enough at math to tell you what all that adds up to, but you're getting the benefit of all of that, plus being live and having access to that. Plus, afterwards, you'll have access to our virtual boot camp online. So you'll have access to all of the materials there. Briana, this is the first time we've managed to make the schedules work so that you can come out to boot camp. We've tried a couple of times before, but what are you thinking about this as you're getting ready for it?
I'm so excited. And time management works in really well with some of that mindset stuff. So I'm really looking forward to working with June a little bit to see how we can coordinate the things that I teach in my time management with the things that she works on with mindset. And I'm brainstorming all these ideas of how we can incorporate these things. And I'm just really excited to come and work with these students in person. Do yourself a huge favor and invest in this. First time for me to come in person and meet you guys and meet all of our students. I would love to have some face-to-face interaction with all of you guys.
Yeah. And we've had you on video before. Maybe we'll bring Bobka. Maybe we can get Bobka like on Friday night or Saturday.
That'd be fantastic.
Wouldn't that be great? Bob, could we get you to do that? Get you on video?
Yeah.
I'm free.
Okay. Listen, folks, if you haven't heard Bobka speak, he's one of the great motivators I've ever met. So I think that'd be awesome if we could do that. We had a number of students that came through boot camp, as I said, that passed the bar exam. I did an interview after the last exam with one of our students, Dan Lang, who came to boot camp. He was a repeat bar taker and he passed the bar exam. And I cut that video down to about a 5-minute clip that I'm going to play for you now. And I'm not trying to sell you anything here. I just want you to hear from somebody who went through boot camp as to what a difference it made and what the challenges were for him. And I think it's a wonderful opportunity for you to get a real sense of what makes a difference. I hope you enjoyed this interview with Dan. And I want to talk about boot camp because I think it's a significant part of your journey. Am I correct?
You're absolutely correct. Boot camp was a very important part of my passing.
Can you talk a little bit about what made boot camp special for you and helped you get those extra points to pass?
Sure. I think it's especially applicable to repeaters. It's applicable to everybody, but when you're preparing for this exam, it's a long slog, right? It's many weeks of preparation and scheduling your time. And you can get to a point where it feels like you're in the doldrums. Getting to boot camp provided me a really wonderful opportunity and a reinvigoration of my desire, of my drive to succeed and feeling like I could make this happen. Then when you're there, you also get this tremendous amount of support. I can't say enough about you and your team that you genuinely walk away feeling like, I've got a team behind me. And these people aren't just punching the clock and hoping that I do well. They really want me to pass. And so having that system of belief, having that support was indescribable. So that really provided that extra invigoration, that extra support, that extra drive to keep going. And to wrap it up, to believe in yourself that you can make this happen.
Yeah. And we could see the growth in you, even in those 2 days there, that coming in and being, gee, I've got to make this investment. I'm going back at it again. I'm really going to try and dig in. And then leaving 2 days later, I think we all felt you were going to pass. It seemed obvious to us at that point that you had really grasped the concepts and you were employing them. You were a photo reader before you came to boot camp. Did boot camp help you with your photo reading?
I would say that I was a photo reading attempter prior to, because yes, I had purchased a program prior to going to boot camp and it just wasn't clicking for me. And then while at camp, yes, I would say that I became a photo reader. And that's part of what you also get at boot camp, was that you get this concept and you hear it repeatedly. And I finally convinced myself that you just got to buy in. You have to do it. You've got to try. You've got to believe in the process and work that process. And that's one of the things why I feel like I actually became a photo reader. And I started to see the progress. And it's not difficult. It's not insurmountable. You just need to believe in it and just do it.
And you used photo reading on the bar exam when you got there.
I did.
Yeah. Yeah. And it makes a difference. It makes a difference. It works. And that's the question people always ask is, does it work? And for you, it worked, right?
Yeah, it absolutely works.
That's great. Yeah. Part of boot camp was also live instruction in writing essays. What was the value of that for you?
It was tremendously valuable. And it's an area that I definitely needed help with. There were several things that I picked up and refined there. Primarily, the writing style that you promote and teach is much more streamlined than I had been trying to do prior to that. I can tell you, for example, that previous attempt at the bar exam, the morning session of day one, the essay session, I would be in that chair for the straight 3 hours and actually almost run out of time and not feel like I was answering the essay questions adequately. Thanks to the writing instruction that I received at boot camp, I really drilled down and refined. And I became much more efficient, much more organized, so that when I approached the essay portion of this exam, I was much more prepared. And getting back to that whole feeling that you get at boot camp, I did every practice essay available to me. I did every single one in that period of time. And so it gave me the kind of the juice to keep going.
Yeah. You worked really hard and we were all pretty impressed with that. I think that was a real testimony to your willingness to be open to the process. You also made some good friends at boot camp, didn't you?
I sure did. And they're fast friends because you're all there. It's a small group, but you're all there with the same goal in mind. You're all supportive of one another. I can tell you that everyone in that room, from the people attending boot camp to the people instructing boot camp, they all have the same goal. Yes, you make some great friends, you make some connections that will last forever. And you really feel that sense of camaraderie that you will take with you.
Yeah. We get questions from people who are retaking the exam and we talk about boot camp and they say, well, I don't know. I got to travel. I got to take a couple of days off work. There's the expense of boot camp. Is it worth it? Should they invest in it?
I think it's absolutely worth it. One of my biggest hurdles personally was guilt. I felt guilt about the time I was spending away from my family and my kids, work and all those sorts of things. But there is also that financial component. And in the grand scheme of things, it is well worth your investment because you have to be able to invest in yourself. Why not give yourself the tools that are available to you and invest in those tools so that you can get beyond this hurdle? Because you can. And in the grand scheme of things, it was definitely a worthy investment.
There you go. I hope that Dan's experience is one that you can relate to. He is having a terrific, successful career as a new lawyer. This is what we look for. This is what we want. And it's what we want for you, all of you. So please check out boot camp. It is limited enrollment. First come, first serve, fill out the application. We will then review your application and give you the golden ticket. And then we'll look forward to seeing you in Denver on April 26th and 27th. Let us know if you've got questions. And we're very excited about it. We'll be talking more about it, obviously, in the weeks to come. All right. I want to jump to student questions that we've gotten over the past couple of weeks. We got some great ones in, and I want to start with a couple that are just more logistics than anything else. The first question was, we've now reached that point in the season when people start thinking about the MPRE, the ethics exam, and wondering whether or not we have materials, lectures, and so on for this exam. And the answer is yes, we do. There is an MPRE course. You can find the link to order it in your online course under the Upgrade Center. The MPRE course includes lectures, an outline, and I think 400 or 500 licensed questions and answer explanations. So it's everything you need for that particular exam. The other question that comes up is, how long do I need to study for that test? I'll give you my answer. I think it's probably 25 to 30 hours total to get ready for the test, to do the reading, the lectures, and the question practice. Briana, does that sound about right to you?
I think you're pretty much on the mark. I didn't really pick up my MPRE until after I took the February exam, and I took the March, and I did it in a week.
Okay, so not very long. Okay.
No, you're right on the mark there.
Bobga, you agree? Am I close to the mark there?
Yeah, you're close to the mark. I would say depending on the jurisdiction, because I know some states require a high MPRE score. I think California and Delaware, some kind of crazy score. But I would say 20 to 30 hours, and then you just do those practice questions and it should be fine.
Yeah, don't overstudy for it. I think that's really my comment there. And I would recommend getting through the bar exam in February 1st before you study for the MPRE in March. That would be my general recommendation. Next, we got a series of questions about doing multi-state bar exam questions. So I want to break them down into several different questions. First part was, how do I access the question bank? Can I download it to my computer and cell phone? The answer is no, you cannot download it, because the questions are the copyrighted material of the NCBE, and they will not give it away to us or to you. So you can't download it. However, the questions are available within the course in 3 different ways. If you have printed books, the questions are in the printed books. If you don't have printed books, they're in the digital books and in the PDFs, which you can download and print on your own, which is different than owning the digital file itself. And then third, there's an online multi-state bar exam trainer, and you can do the questions there. Now, my preference would be to do them online because you can keep track of your results. We can see what's going on as well, and we like to monitor that to make sure that there's no real hiccups there. And it's also instant feedback, which I like. You don't see the answer explanations until after you've answered the question. So that's the way that you get access to the MBEs. But again, you cannot download them. And it's really a question of not getting on the wrong side of the NCBE. Now, the student went on to say, can I access all the questions at the same time so that I can choose which ones to do first or how many questions to do in a set? Don't make this so complicated. Just follow the schedule. We've laid out a structure in which you do questions, and then we pull them away for a while, and we come back and we do more, and we call this stepped repetition. It's like a stair step. And the value of stepped repetition is that you're actually learning as you go through. So when people start trying to manipulate and say, I want to do 50 questions here, or I want to do all of these questions, show me all the questions in the question bank in torts, they're really missing the point, aren't they? Bobga, I know you've got strong feelings about how important it is to follow the schedule and the structure.
Oh, absolutely. This person is fishing around, and this is not going to get you where you want to be. I would say stick with that study guide, because I'm on the other side, because I stuck to that study guide. Trying to play around with it or trying to answer questions that you feel are convenient in the moment is not going to cut it. Just stick to it. And then, like Nike says, just do it.
Yeah. And Briana, I know that when you talk to people about scheduling and structure, this is one of the things to not go down the rabbit hole, right?
Oh, absolutely. You don't like you were saying, the step repetition. Each question might be digging into the same kind of area, it might be digging in a little bit deeper. So you're testing the big, broad concept and maybe going a little deeper, maybe going a little deeper. So the questions themselves are actually in a specific order with a specific purpose. On top of, here's the set of 25, then we're going to move on to the essay, then we're going to move on to this, then we're going to move on to that. So it doesn't do you any good to not follow the syllabus, because you might be missing something else that might help really target a specific area of the law that you might be struggling with.
Yeah. There's a company that shall remain nameless that talks about their algorithm for the MBE, which is like the Wizard of Oz. You pull back the curtain and there's really no algorithm. The bar examiners say there's no algorithm. There isn't any, but it's great marketing. So I give them credit for that. But what we did, starting back in the 1980s, my predecessor company, SMH, started developing this sort of stair-step learning through the questions. And then I refined it over the years. And so the questions are actually in a particular order in our course to help you learn. Now, we could call that an algorithm. It's not, so we don't do it because I think that's not really accurate. But really, there is a method to the placement of the questions and the questions you're doing. And so when you try to do a whole bunch of questions at once, you're really not getting the full benefit of the course. And that's what we want to make sure that you're getting. So we're not trying to be rigid for its own sake. It's really to help you learn through that part of the material. And this leads to the student's third part of the question, which I thought was really the most important. They said, can I redo questions I've already completed? My first set of 25 questions went really well, and I found a lot of new information. And so it was really valuable to me. But can I redo these to achieve a passing rate? What's your response to that, Tracy, when you hear that? I want to redo these MBEs so I can get a passing score in the practice.
You're looking at it the wrong way. The reason for doing the MBEs is to get you used to seeing the form of question, used to using your selective intuition, and then taking the information that you have received from a right answer or an incorrect answer back to your mind maps to refine what you had in your toolbox. Worrying about when you're getting a passing score or not, it's a false dynamic because that's not how it's set up.
Yeah. And I want to point out that about 40 days to the exam, we start getting a real focus on students saying, am I passing? Am I doing passing quality work? But the reality is most people are not doing passing work at 40 days to the exam. And the purpose of these questions, whether they're essays or MBEs or anything else, is to help you learn. It's not to be predictive. And so when you start putting the results ahead of the process at this stage, you really get yourself all tied up in knots and unnecessarily. I can think back to both Bobga and Briana when they were studying, and no disrespect, but neither of them were doing passing work at 40 days out. There were moments, to be sure, but it wasn't there, and we didn't expect it to be there. And if you put yourself on that standard today, you're going to be frustrated, aren't you, Briana?
Yeah. And one of the things that I iterate during kind of my group coaching call when students are harping about whether or not they're receiving their percentage on a certain set of 25 questions, I like to remind them that I did keep my spreadsheet and I did figure out everything. And even after I was done with my substantive and I was into the final 150 set of questions, my percentage rate across 25 questions varied significantly. And so I almost wish I hadn't done that, but I'm glad that I did. So I can relay this to you now that for the first set of 25 questions, let's say I got 65% right. Great. Awesome. Last set of 25 questions, the 125 through 150, I got maybe 20% right. It is across the board. The most important thing you need to be focusing on right now is getting through all of those questions, not whether or not you got them right or wrong. And I try to encourage my students to get excited about the questions you get wrong because you're probably not going to make that same mistake again. It's okay if you do, but hey, great. That's awesome. That's exciting. I got to learn something new and incorporate that into my mind map. And hopefully I don't make that same mistake again. So yeah, don't get super bogged down in am I passing yet? Am I failing yet? Why am I still failing all these questions? It's the wrong way to look at it.
Yeah, it's a growth mindset. And Bobga, you have probably the best growth mindset I've ever seen. You just went in and said, okay, if I'm missing it, that's a chance to learn something new, right?
Absolutely. And I think to Brianna's point, at least, I think they are missing the mark with focusing on the scores because the whole point of it is practice. This is the point where you practice, you get to make all the mistakes you make. Because when you practice, you perfect those errors, you get to reason why, okay, this is the reason why I failed. When you're going to the bar exam, you have one chance. You're not going in there in July to go and retake it again in February. Nope. So if there's a way for you to clean up your errors, this is the opportunity. The practice questions provide that opportunity. You clean up. When you go in there, you're going to execute. And when you execute, it's no stone left unturned. So don't focus on the score, focus on the progress.
I think that's absolutely true. And I want to stay with MBEs for just a minute because we got another student question that I thought was relevant to this same idea. Student said, how concerned should I be if I got an overall passing on 100 set of questions in a 3-hour block? It's a little early to be doing those, but the student did that. But they said, I happen to miss one of the high correlation to passing questions. I get this every exam multiple times. So let me explain. There are in the course a handful of questions that we call marker questions. They have a high correlation to whether or not the person getting the right answer will pass or fail the exam. Now, this started back in the 1980s in the original SMH course, and I debated keeping the identifier of a marker question available to students. It was always available to us. And I decided I'd leave it out there, not because I actually thought it was a true predictor, but because it was a warning buoy that says, hey, wait a minute, something's wrong here. Now, here's the part that most people don't get. They think that these marker questions are the toughest questions in the course. They are not. On a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is the easiest and 10 is the hardest, they are primarily 2s and 3s. Not very hard questions. So why are they marker questions? When we tracked how people did back in the early days, before I started using selective intuition, what we discovered was that if people were missing easy questions that they should be getting right, it was because they were overthinking. And the overthinking would lead to not getting a passing result on the bar exam. So what we decided to do was to identify that these were questions that told us as coaches that the student was overthinking, not that they weren't smart enough or doing enough work, but just the opposite. And so if you happen to miss one of the marker questions and you're astute enough to identify, because we've got it, it's not like flashing bold letters that says this is a marker question, but if you happen to notice that it is, and you did not get it right, the odds are very high that you didn't get it right because you overthought it. You didn't just react and use selective intuition. So does that mean you're going to fail the bar exam? Absolutely not. What it means is you need to make a course correction and stop overthinking and start using selective intuition. So when you see those questions and you didn't get them right, it's because you're overdoing it. If you got to those questions and you got them right, does it mean you're going to pass the bar exam? No, it just means you're getting those questions correct. And that means you're probably on track. So does that make sense? I try to explain this every year, and sometimes I feel like I'm better at it than other times, but that's really the idea. And I know some of you are like, oh my God, why is he doing this to us? It's really mostly for my purposes so that I can see if somebody's about to veer off course. And it's a warning sign for me more than for you.
The final thing of, do I have to keep doing more exams or can I stop? I think if you are already at a place where you are receiving an overall pass on 100 set of questions in a 3-hour block, I think you should give yourself a huge pat on the back. And you should just be really proud of that passing score. And then just make sure you don't get down on yourself if you don't continue to receive those passing scores in the next 100 block, because again, we're still in that kind of learning phase.
Yeah, absolutely. So just be aware of it. So interesting to talk about MBEs. Let's switch over to essays for a minute. We got some interesting questions about essays. One of the questions was, and I love it, again, we're at 40 days and students are writing, they say, what score is passing on an essay? Do I want a 65? Okay, Bobcat. Take it, buddy.
You don't focus on the score. You focus on improving your writing. That is the whole point of a practice question, because I don't think any of us can tell you, you know what, this is a great essay. It's probably going to make it on the New York Times best. No, it's not going to do that. The whole point is to pass. And in order to pass, you need to get better at your writing. You improve your writing, you go back, you review what is in the book, and then you take it from there. Don't focus on the score, focus on the progress you're making. And when you focus on the progress you're making, and that you're making considerable progress, your confidence level equally goes up, which equally affects how you write the next essay. But if you're more focused on the score, you're losing the mark.
Yeah. Look, a passing score on the UBE on an essay is a 4, 5, or 6. And if you're looking at the model answers and the drafter point sheets and trying to self-evaluate, you want to look at that and say, am I getting most of those legal points and problems? If you're in a coaching program with one of us, we're going to tell you if we think that this hits the mark. But frankly, I don't think any of us as coaches are really focused right now on whether or not your work is passing. As Bobka said, it's not really our primary focus. Trace, would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Learn the process that we teach you. If you learn the process that we teach you and you follow it, you will pass.
Yeah, I think that's it. Briana, you do the personal writing workshop. Do people ever ask you in the writing workshop if they're writing passing work on day one?
Oh God, yes, yes, they do. So it's I I'm, I don't have much more to add to what's already being said. We can do the best of our ability. So, in other words, writing an essay is a lot different than doing an MBE. We have a right or wrong answer with an MBE, so we can put that on a point scale. It's a lot harder for you as a student to go in and really know if you wrote a passing essay or not without actually working with one of us. So it's harder for me to say, okay, student A, this is how you know you're passing. This is how you know you're failing. A little bit subjective. So again, if you're working with one of us and we believe that you're writing a passing score, we're really good at what we do. So we're more likely going to be right. But again, part of it's a little subjective on whoever's grading that essay. So as long as you're following the formula and we're breaking that down for you, your shot of making that essay a passing essay is going to be high.
Yeah, focus on process, not on outcome or results at this stage. There will be a time that we focus on the results, but we're still a long way away from it. And when that moment comes, I'll put it in an email. I'll tell you we've reached that moment, but we are not there today. One last substantive question before we get to Tracy's talk. I had a student that was talking about writing essays, and they said they're having trouble with timing, and they wanted to know, they said, we don't get points for writing the fact paragraph. Well, it's not exactly true, but they said, is it a horrible idea to approach the essays by writing the legal argument and the application sections first and then going back to write the fact paragraph if you have time? This is a variation on the writing that under extreme circumstances, sometimes I suggest. Primarily, I suggest it for people who are struggling with language and they're just having trouble getting enough words on the paper. But let me explain why I created the FLA system originally. By writing the facts first, you're doing a couple of things. One is you're setting context for the reader, which I think is very important. But equally important is that you are priming your mental pump. You're activating what you know, whether you're a photo reader or not. There's just getting the stimulant out there, the activation, the spark that helps you start to think about the problem. And so if you're writing 1 to 2 sentences, and that's all your fact paragraph needs to be, just based on the facts for that part of the problem, what you're doing is you're starting the juices to flow so that when the next sentence of the second paragraph, which is a factual argument, is made, it flows from paragraph 1 to paragraph 2. And now you're asking yourself, what would the law have to be to support that argument? It's much easier to write that law sentence in the second paragraph. Now, you can play around with writing the legal argument paragraph and the application paragraph and then writing the fact paragraph to see how it works. What I don't want you doing is omitting the fact paragraph. I have students sometimes that copy their fact paragraph and they just drop it into every section. That doesn't work either. The reader won't buy that. Facts really have a value. And while I can't say they specifically carry points, no paragraph specifically carries points. It's the overall approach take to the legal problem that gets you the points because now you've addressed the whole problem. Without a factual context, it's very difficult to do that. Tracy, I know you were on the bench for decades. You didn't decide cases absent the facts, did you?
No, the framing of the facts are very important. What I like to think about in essay writing is that you're basically writing an opening statement for a court. In an opening statement, you have a very short period of time, generally maybe 10 minutes for most hearings. And you need to let the judicial officer know what facts are going to be at issue, what facts are critical for this decision, and then what law are you going to be relying on, and what argument is going to be in front of that law, and what argument you're going to anticipate from the other side and the law that they're going to rely on. And then a paragraph is basically, Judge, I want you to rule this way, and this is why. And so if you approach the essay as an opening statement, you can see how it is an integrated whole. If you're coming in front of me and you just start a law argument, I don't even know what the case is about. I don't know what you're here for. And I will stop you and say, back up, give me some background on what is essential here for me to know on these facts. And yeah, you can't do it without the facts.
You. So just be careful when you're doing that. I think my original comment, and I think everybody has affirmed this, is if you're working with a coach, talk to the coach, let us work with you. Most of you don't need to skip the fact paragraph, but I really think you get benefit from doing the facts. If you want to play around with it a little bit and draft it and see what happens, I think you'll find it actually flows better if you write the fact paragraph first. So there you go. One other question I did want to quickly address. We had a student that was talking about their review at this point. We've got some students that are into the review section of their studies, and they were trying to put together their own review. Let me just say what I've said throughout today's session. Follow the study plan. Follow what you see there. You don't have to make it up on your own. Just do what we're asking you to do. Where it says, do these questions, do these. You don't have to do more than that. You don't have to do more practice essays than what we put out there. You don't have to make it difficult. Just follow what we've given you, because we know that works. And so when I get these emails that say, I've got this long, convoluted, complicated review study program, why? You don't really need it. We've developed the program. All you have to do is follow it step by step in your online course. So if you start veering off of that, I think you're going to get yourself frustrated pretty easily. So that's where we are. Tracy, we've left a few minutes here for you. I know you're highly motivated and you're manifesting something, and I think it's relevant to our students. So you want to talk about manifesting, in your case, the 5K?
I do. Most of you know by now that 2 months ago, I had major surgery. I had a knee replacement surgery. At my age, it's major surgery. It was daunting. I had stacks and stacks of materials that were given to me, classes I had to go to before my surgery, home exercise programs that were pages long, lots of things that I had to work on. Well, I was getting ready for the surgery, and then I had appointments after the surgery, and I had drug interaction forms that I had to fill out and I had to understand. And then I had to do all the work. It wasn't just reading. I had to actually put it into practice. When I first came home from my surgery, I had a walker and I could barely walk 10 feet with the walker and with extreme pain. And little by little, I was able to walk into the hallway in my home. I was able then, after a couple of days, to walk into the kitchen, actually get a glass of water for myself, walk around a little bit. I followed the process that they gave me, and I did the exercises religiously. I went to my appointments. I worked with my coach, which was my physical therapist. And within a couple of weeks, I didn't need the walker anymore. I was with a cane. And sure enough, I worked on the next section of what the process was. And after a couple more weeks, I was off the cane. And so here I am now, 2 months later, and I begun doing walking. And my first goal was just to walk 2,000 steps, which isn't very far. And I struggled to do that. It was painful to do that. I walked 2,000 steps. And then I studied some more. I did some more of these exercises. I worked with my coach, my physical therapist. I checked in with my surgeon, which is like checking in here on Q&A. And lo and behold, I was up to 3,000 steps and then 4,000 steps. And that roughly translates to about 2 miles. Now I'm up to 2.5 miles. A 5K is 3.1 miles. And that's my goal by the end of this month, to be able to walk a 5K. Whereas 3 months ago, I could barely walk to my car. Jackson knows we go to a restaurant, he'd have to drop me off at the front door. I could barely walk a half a block. And now I'm looking at walking a 5K. I couldn't have done it unless I followed the process that they gave me, followed what my coaches said, and did the work. So that's what I'm telling you too. When you first open up this program, it looks daunting. It looks like, oh my gosh, there's no way I can possibly learn all of this and do all of this. But first, you just start with the first few steps. And then you get to 2,000 steps. And then you get to 3,000 steps. And maybe you get a coach if you're able to do that and you think that will help. And we certainly recommend it. I didn't have to do personal physical therapy, but I did it. And that's why we're telling you, get a coach, take these classes. And pretty soon you're going to be as conversant in this area of learning as I have become in my rehab. So as I move to my 5K, you're going to be moving at the same time to taking the bar exam. And you know what? I'm here for you. We're here for you. And we are walking with you.
Congratulations. It's very exciting. And for all of you, as you're doing your bar study, I know that to many of you, it seems like the exam is going to happen tomorrow, but it's not. We are still a very long way away. I know that Briana and Bobga both look at that and go, yeah, it's a long, still journey ahead of us. And this is when the growth happens. This is when you start to manifest those things, as Tracy was talking about. So be patient with yourself. Continue to grow, continue to learn, continue to stay connected through the group coaching, through the live Q&As that we're doing here, through your upgrades and coaching and work with personal mentors. All of those things are designed to help you and to continue your growth. You will see amazing growth over the next 40 days, I promise you. And that's what makes the difference. So with that, I think we're going to sign off for today. It's been great seeing all of you. Fun to have you here with us live. If you're watching on replay, we're glad that you took the time out to check this out. And we will be back again next Wednesday, and we will have more student questions and more information to share with you. If you're taking the bar exam in July of 2024 or later, check out the boot camp here in Denver. Really looking forward to that. Thank you, Bobga, for being with us. It's always fun when we can grab you from court. Briana, nice to see you. We're looking forward to seeing you in person soon. And Tracy, good to see you as always. And we'll see all of you again next week. Bye-bye.
Keep walking, everybody. Keep doing it.
All right.
1,000 steps.
See y'all next week. Bye-bye.
All right.